She rolled away from me in the dark, the blanket rising to her shoulder like it was protecting her from more than the cold. I'm just exhausted. Please don't take it personally. I nodded once. Okay. The word fell like a stone in the space between us. I turned off the light, my side of the bed colder than it should have been, and lay on my back staring at the ceiling. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the fan and the rustle of fabric as she adjusted, inching closer to the wall. We hadn't touched in over a week. No arguments, no crisis, just silence. A drifting. I'd chalked it up to work, hormones, life. You don't marry someone thinking you'll need to decode their distance like a riddle. You trust what they say. Or try to. So when she said she was tired, I believed her. For a while. Then, buzz. My phone lit up on the nightstand. The screen glowed in the dark like a spotlight. I blinked, sat up halfway, and reached for it without thinking. Her name. A message. Can't wait to. See you tonight. I need you. For a second, my mind tried to protect me, tried to come up with a story where this made sense. Maybe it was for me. Maybe she was trying to rekindle something in a strange, new way. Before I could even finish that thought. Sorry, wrong person. Wrong person. I didn't breathe, didn't move. Not because I didn't understand, but because I did. It wasn't a mistake. It was the truth with bad aim. The right person had read it. Just the wrong wife had sent it. I looked over at her, still curled up, screen turned away. Maybe texting again. Maybe deleting. Or maybe she really was asleep like she said. But now, even her sleep felt like a lie. I didn't say a word. Didn't tap her shoulder. Didn't ask who he was. I just lay back down and stared into the dark, phone still warm in my hand. And in that moment, I knew. She wasn't too tired. She just wasn't tired for me. The next morning felt like a dream I hadn't agreed to be in. Melissa stood at the kitchen counter, hair tied up, pouring herself coffee like she hadn't sent a declaration of betrayal to the man she married. She didn't mention the message, didn't apologize, didn't even act like it happened. If it had been a spilled drink or a broken glass, maybe we would have talked about it. But it wasn't. It was the kind of fracture that happens beneath the surface, silent until the whole structure falls. I watched her stir sugar into her cup, 2 spoons, just the way she always did. I almost hated that I still noticed small things like that. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked, as if we were roommates or co-workers or strangers who once shared something but forgot what it was. "Yeah," I lied. "You?" She nodded, then scrolled through her phone. There was no mention of the message. No wrong person follow-up, no panic. It was almost worse that she acted normal, like what she'd done didn't even register. The rest of the day passed in fragments. She left for work like nothing had shifted. I stayed home, said I wasn't feeling well. That much was true. My chest felt like it had been hollowed out and filled with static. Every sound felt too loud. Every silence, heavier than it should have been. I walked around the house, noticing details I'd ignored for months. The perfume bottle that had moved from the nightstand to the bathroom shelf. The second toothbrush in the drawer. The late-night laundry that never seemed to need folding. None of it had made sense before. Now, it all clicked into place like puzzle pieces I'd been too tired to arrange. She'd been drifting for weeks, maybe longer. Melissa had gone from soft kisses in the kitchen to cold goodnights without any sharp turn. That's how betrayal usually works. It doesn't scream. It whispers until you don't recognize the voice anymore. Dinner that evening was quiet. She picked at her plate, said she wasn't that hungry. I nodded. I didn't eat either. What was there to talk about? I already knew the truth. I just wanted to see if she'd offer it on her own. She didn't. Instead, She yawned halfway through my question about her day and said she needed to lie down. "Just tired," she said again, that phrase now toxic in its familiarity. I stayed behind, clearing the plates we never touched, placing them in the dishwasher like it mattered. The domestic rituals continued even as everything else eroded. That's what stunned me the most. How normal life tries to be even when it's unraveling. Later that night, I stood in the hallway outside our bedroom door listening to her breathing. She always turned to the wall when she slept. Or maybe she just turned away from me. I used to trace my fingers down the curve of her back as she fell asleep. Now, even the idea of touching her felt foreign. I stood there, wondering what part of her body he touched last. If she used that same yawn to excuse herself from him when it was my turn she wanted. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. That wasn't my way. What broke inside me wasn't loud. It was the kind of break that makes everything quieter. Back in the living room, I sat on the couch and looked around the space we'd built together. The framed wedding photo on the wall. The throw blanket she always hogged. Her scent still lingered on the cushion beside me. But none of it meant anything now. Because now I knew. Her absence wasn't circumstantial. It was chosen. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want answers anymore. I just wanted out of the lie. It happened in the quietest way possible. No screaming, no confrontation, just a vibration on the nightstand. I had gotten used to Melissa falling asleep early. The yawn came like clockwork. A soft groan, a turned shoulder, and then the word that had become her favorite weapon, tired. I stopped asking for connection, stopped hoping she'd roll over and pull me close. Her exhaustion had become our nightly ritual. But this night, something shifted. It was nearly midnight. I had been lying awake for hours, my eyes fixed on the ceiling fan. I could hear the steady rhythm of her breathing, the occasional twitch in her leg beneath the blanket. I should have been asleep. But my mind wouldn't settle. It circled the same thought over and over. If someone really loves you, they don't make you feel this alone. Then came the buzz. Short, sharp. The screen lit up the room for a moment like lightning in a dark sky. I turned my head. Her phone. She had left it on the edge of the nightstand instead of under her pillow like usual. That was the first mistake. I didn't mean to look. It was instinct. A flicker of light in a still room draws your eye. But then I saw the name. Not a contact, just a number. No emojis, no initials. But the preview text said enough. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I need you." I blinked, read it again and again. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on a staircase. Melissa had sent it, from her phone. While she lay beside me, claiming to be too tired to talk, too drained to touch, she had typed out that hunger for someone else. And then the second message appeared. "Sorry, wrong person." The kind of message that could be brushed off with a nervous laugh, played off as a joke, a typo, a bad autocorrect. But I knew. I knew from the cold clarity that settled in my chest the moment I read it. This wasn't carelessness. It wasn't a mistake. It was her truth leaking out by accident. I didn't wake her, didn't speak. I just stared at the screen until it went dark again, like a curtain dropping on a play I hadn't known we were performing. I got out of bed, walked into the living room, and sat there. Not because I needed air or space, but because the bed no longer felt like mine. The silence in the room wasn't peace. It was decay. And the worst part wasn't that she had betrayed me. It was that she had done it so quietly, with so little guilt, that I almost missed it. She wasn't tired. She was elsewhere. And I had just witnessed the truth, not because I went looking, but because it slipped into my hands when she stopped caring enough to hide it properly. That's when everything changed. The next morning, Melissa didn't notice the shift. She moved through the kitchen humming lightly under her breath, like she hadn't detonated our marriage with a text message. She wore one of my old sweatshirts, her hair in a loose bun, barefoot as she stood by the sink rinsing out a mug. Her phone was right there on the counter. Screen dark, secretive again. She didn't ask why I had slept on the couch, didn't mention the message, didn't even glance at me long enough to realize I hadn't really slept. I watched her, the way you study something for the last time. Quietly, deliberately. Not with affection anymore, but with a strange, painful curiosity. The person I had built a life with looked so at ease, so practiced, as if this version of herself, the woman who lied by omission, had always been there, just beneath the surface. I had always thought infidelity would come with fireworks, with screaming, tears, begging. But this was worse. It was quiet, routine, deceptively normal. It made me wonder how long she'd been living a double life in front of me while I stayed loyal, blindfolded by trust. I remembered all the times I'd brushed off her coldness, her sighs, the way she flinched slightly when I reached for her hand. I'd told myself not to pressure her. That real love gave space. That exhaustion wasn't personal. But now I understood. She wasn't exhausted. She was just somewhere else. Mentally, emotionally, physically. Her body was here, going through the motions. But her intimacy, her softness, her laughter, they were being spent on someone who hadn't earned them. Someone who wasn't up late making her tea or rubbing her temples when a headache set in. Someone who didn't build a life beside her, brick by quiet brick. And I realized something that felt like a knife sliding in. Not quick and dramatic, but slow and careful. It wasn't that she had more energy for him, it's that she chose to have it. That choice was made in 1,000 tiny moments. When she read his messages with a half smile. When she rolled over and said, "Not tonight." When she slipped her phone under the pillow, screen down. Every little decision had been a betrayal, a step away from me. Not a stumble, a walk, calm, deliberate. That was the moment I stopped hoping for an explanation. There was nothing to explain. I didn't want to know his name. I didn't want to hear a half-hearted confession wrapped in fake remorse. I didn't need the breakdown. I had already seen the truth, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It changes the way you look at everything. The trust was gone, and with it, the foundation. All that remained was silence, and the knowledge that I wasn't losing her. I had already lost her. Now I was just catching up. By the time she woke up the next morning, I was already gone. There was no dramatic exit, no slam door, no final argument. Just a quiet departure. I moved. Through the house like a ghost, collecting only what I needed. My keys, a small duffel, and a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. I didn't touch the photo frames. I didn't say goodbye to the bedroom where our marriage had once lived. That space didn't feel sacred anymore. It felt staged, like a museum built around something that had already died. On the nightstand, I left my key. On the kitchen counter, I left a note. It wasn't long. It didn't ask for answers or apologies. It simply said, "You don't owe me the truth anymore. I found it myself." No accusations, no closure request, just a fact. She could interpret it however she wanted. Maybe she'd read it and feel guilt. Maybe she'd fold it, throw it away, pretend it meant less than it did. But that wasn't my concern anymore. What mattered was that I didn't stay. I didn't wait for her to justify a betrayal I already understood. I got into my car and started driving with no destination in mind, just a direction. Away. The sun was rising as I hit the main road. It painted the horizon in gold and burnt orange, a color I hadn't really noticed in months. Grief has a way of dulling everything. But now, as the light spilled across the sky, something inside me shifted. This wasn't heartbreak. This was clarity. There's a kind of peace that only comes after you stop asking why. When you stop hoping someone will explain their absence or their distance or their sudden coldness. When you finally accept that they were never confused, they just didn't love you enough to stay honest. That morning, I didn't feel hate. I didn't even feel sadness. I felt free. The phone stayed silent for hours. No call, no message. I knew she had seen the note. I knew she had walked into the kitchen and realized what I'd done, what I hadn't said. And I knew, deep down, she wasn't shocked. Because people who lie with ease are rarely surprised when someone finally stops listening. Eventually, the phone did buzz. But it wasn't her. Just a work email. A weather alert. A few forgotten reminders. And honestly, that felt right. No drama, no begging, just quiet. Melissa had made her choices in silence. I answered them the same way. Some people leave with a bang, others with a whisper, and some, like me, leave with a steady hand and a note that says everything without raising a voice. As I parked near the overlook and stepped out to watch the sun rise higher, I felt it fully. This wasn't an ending born from pain. It was one born from truth. And truth, no matter how cruel, never needs to shout.